last time I spoke from this place about 2 weeks ago, I spoke about the Sunday law, different phases of Sunday law, the abomination of desolation, and certain signs of the times pointing that we are very close to the very end. The final great crisis, how we call it. This presentation has generated or attracted considerable attention, and some people have been contacted me even and asked more questions. So I felt that I should deal with this issue in this part today, and that I will highlight or shed more light on some events that are associated with this Sunday law. You see, we Seventh-day Adventists believe that there is a sequence of events as we come to the final stage of the great controversy, and for us it's quite important to know what these events are and where we are in the stream of time. Today's presentation will be dealing with the more current events in the light of the Bible prophecy. And you will be able to recognize these events. This is happening right now around us. And so we will be looking from more religio-political side into the last day events and try to understand, is the Bible reliable? Is it being fulfilled? And what has not yet been fulfilled, will it be fulfilled in the near future? So let me guide you in the first part through headline news from New York Times. By the way, New York Times is one of the leading world newspapers. If you don't know, the United States government keeps the New York Times entries about events recorded from, 100 years ago and more as a record, public record of what has happened. So it's very relevant, important, and they have great journalists, more in the past than present, but still I acknowledge it is a great newspaper. Now let me show you, and you know these events. This is from January 1st, 2024. The US and Israel, an embrace shows signs of strain after October 7th. So Israel is in war in Gaza, and then there is a problem, and the relationship between US and Israel a little bit strained. Then we are coming to March 8th, State of the Union address, offering a choice of revenge versus decency. Biden strikes a contrast with Trump's. Now we are having election year, and now sitting president of the United States, in his State of the Union address, he is actually addressing current political issues, and even his prospective rival. Then let's go to March 7th. With Haley's departure, the rematch between Biden and Trump is now set. Now, on the Republican side, we are having former President Trump, who is the front runner, and then he becomes the candidate on that side. And then we are coming to, March 5, 2024. Trump prevails in Supreme Court challenge to his eligibility. As you know, what we are going through in the headline news, President Trump is challenging the court. Some people want to stop him, and he somehow is, inching, making progress little by little. But this is the news. And then again, April 26th, we are having here, this Friday, yesterday, Trump is in the court, and then there is a Columbia University student protest. Students are on the street. They are protesting against U.S. actions, arming Israel, and what's going on in Gaza, and so on. And then, as you know, we have international problems. Israel has sent a missile to Iranian diplomatic mission in Syria and killed some high-ranking Iranian, military officers. And then what we have, Iran is retaliating. And this is an image from Iran. You're walking in the street of Tehran, and you see this big placard image. Iran has missiles, ballistic missiles, and they are very close also to having a nuclear bomb. They can tip these missiles easily with nuclear, heads, and simply send to Israel if they want to do it, and their missiles can penetrate even the shield that Israel has. So I'm just telling you the world in which we live. These are the headline news. And then Russia-Ukraine war. U.S. Congress has approved additional financial support, military aid for Ukraine, so the war will go on a little longer. And these are the news. This is what's going on in the world. Everybody is watching that. Everyone. We cannot escape this. Then we are having food crisis, shortages. This is in Gaza. Some people are starving. I'm not taking sides in this. I'm just telling you what is being reported in the New York Times. And then I'm showing you a chart. Number of people and share of analyzed population in global research, for food shortages. Countries, territories facing high levels of acute food insecurity. And you're having the last column is in 2023, and you can see that number of people who are experiencing food shortages is increasing year by year. And the last year, 2023, 281.6 million people are in acute, facing famine, starvation. And in 59 countries of the world, 59 countries, almost 60 countries, which is almost 1/3 of the world, population, 281.6 million people are at points of starvation. 21.5% of this population is having food shortages, chronic food shortages. Did you notice even in Canada, in the Western world, people are struggling. Some people are struggling to put food on the table. So this is also a sign of the times in which we live. But now look at the world military expenditure grows for the 9th consecutive year to reach all-time high. 2023 is to the far right column, and you can see how much, and the most money for military is spent in Americas, then Asia and Oceania, then Europe, Middle East, and Africa at the very top, very much small amount. So more and more money is spent for military. So the countries of the world are arming themselves to the teeth, which tells you there will be wars. And military industry, military industrial complex, they are really very happy, because the arms are being sold as never before. That is the world in which we live today. Now let me give you a prophetic perspective on these things from Prophets and Kings 5:37. The present is a time of overwhelming interest to all living, rulers and statesmen, men who occupy positions of trust and authority, thinking men and women of all classes have their attention fixed upon the events taking place about us. They are watching the relations that exist among the nations. They observe the intensity that is taking possession of every earthly element, and they recognize that something great and decisive is about to take place, that the world is on the verge of a stupendous crisis. Brethren, how do you find these words? This was written in Prophets and Kings in about 1910, 14, something that period. More than 100 years ago. Doesn't this text read like today's news? Perfectly fitting the situation of the world in which we live right now. Perfectly. Everyone is watching. Something is going to happen. Let me read on. This is from 9 Testimony, page 11. This is a well-known statement. The calamities by land and sea, the unsettled state of society, the alarms of war are portentous. They forecast approaching events of the greatest magnitude. The agencies of evil are combining their forces and consolidating. Aren't they? Oh, yes. They are strengthening for the last great crisis. Great changes are soon to take place in our world, and the final movements will be rapid ones. Brethren, I sincerely believe as I speak to you today from this place that this is being fulfilled before our eyes today. As Jesus spoke one Sabbath in his native city, town, in synagogue, he read the book of Isaiah, and he said, these words are fulfilled now, today, in your ears. This is being fulfilled with our already eyes. So this is taking place right now. So we need to have a confidence in the Word of God, in the Word of God. Last great crisis is just around the corner. So in the prophecies, the future is opened before us as plainly as it was opened to the disciples by the words of Christ. We have the Word of God, prophecies, opened before us as when Jesus spoke to his disciples. The events connected with the close of probation and the work of preparation for the time of trouble are clearly presented. Do you hear that? I will repeat this sentence. The events connected with what? The close of probation and the work of preparation for the time of trouble are clearly presented to us. So these events leading to the close of probation and the preparation that we have to make today are clearly presented to us. No excuse. No excuse. But multitudes have no more understanding of these important truths than if they had never been revealed. If these people are God's remnant people, if they are so ignorant, this is a tragedy. So this is the reason, this is from Great Controversy, page 594, written in 1911. Those who place themselves under God's control to be led and guided by Him will catch the steady tread of the events ordained by Him to take place. Are you under God's control? Are you catching this, steady thread of the events ordained by Him to take place? Are you observing these events today? We will talk about them today. We are to see in history the fulfillment of prophecy, to study the workings of providence in the great reformatory movements, and to understand the progress of events in the marshalling of the nations for the final conflict of the Great Controversy. 8 Testimony 3:7. So when we look at today's events, we can see how they are being marshaled toward the final crisis. We can see the sequence of these events, we recognize, we identify them, and we map them on the prophetic chart, and we see, we are here. This has happened, we are living right now here, and this is going to happen tomorrow. And then we know how to prepare for this. This is the purpose of our sermon today. There is a need of much closer study of the Word of God, especially should Daniel and the Revelation have attention as never before. The light that Daniel received from God was given especially for these last days. Testimony to Ministers 1:12 and 1:13. Daniel and Revelation. Young people. There are few young people who are studying these words. Prophecy of Daniel. We are in chapter 8. I'm happy that you study. We invite other young people to join us for this study. You want to know these things because this is being fulfilled. You can see what has been fulfilled, what is being fulfilled, and what will be fulfilled in the near future. The unfulfilled predictions of the book of the Revelation are soon to be fulfilled. This prophecy is now to be studied with diligence by the people of God and should be clearly understood. Clearly understood. Clearly understood. It does not conceal the truth. It clearly forewarns, telling us what will be in the future. Last day events, page 15. If you listen carefully to these inspired statements, you can see two important things. God has revealed the future to us, and He has given us signs that we can observe today and connect these things and find where we are in the stream of time and what is happening and what is going to happen. And you know this chart. This is the chart of last day events. It's a chronology of last day events. And I would like in the future, God willing, to go through these major events. And there you can see, we are starting with 1798 at the very left side. And then the time of the end is the top line. And then we are having 1844. I will show you here. dates of prophetic significance. 1798, it's important date, important year. Deadly wound inflicted to papacy. And then starts 1260, or ended 1260 period of persecution. 1844, proclamation of the three angels' messages and investigative judgment. Very important date. 2,300 days prophecy reached its terminal point. 1929, beginning of the healing of the deadly wound. In 1929, when fascist leader Mussolini signed a treaty with Pope at that time, the wound was not healed, the wound started to heal. But as you see from 1929, it's been tremendous. Rome was substantially involved in the rise of fascism in Germany. The Catholic centrist party gave vote for Hitler to come to power. I'm not saying that we equate Roman Catholicism and fascism, but Church became more substantially involved in the political affairs, leading to the Second World War. And after the Second World War, we will see alliance with the United States, what we will be talking later on today. So this church-state alliance is in progress. Sunday law is a major marker. We spoke about that. Sunday law brings a major, major point on this timeline. This will be the time of the trouble and the loud cry and latter rain. And then we have the close of probation. Now, when the Sunday law comes, we will have a little time of trouble starting, and latter rain and loud cry begin. And then we will also have a close of probation, and with the close of probation we have a great time of trouble. And then 7 last plagues start with the close of probation, and then also time of Jacob's trouble will be taking place. So we would like to look into these events and analyze them and know what will be taking place at each specific juncture. And then we have finally second coming of Christ and beginning of millennium, 1,000 years. So Christ reigns, saints go to heaven. But now let me bring you to the present time. So let us look, and this is very important, brethren, today in this lecture, in this sermon. We will be focusing on two major powers. These are two powers from Revelation 13. Earth beast, which is papacy, sea beast, which is papacy, and the earth beast, which is United States of America. They play very important, crucial role in the final events of Earth's history, especially in relation to God's people. So we, as Seventh-day Adventists and all Christians, should pay close attention what is going on in the relationship between these two powers. And let me just remind you what has happened, how this alliance was created. Time magazine, in I think February 24, 1992, published a headline. This is the headline: Holy Alliance. How Reagan and the Pope conspired to assist Poland's solidarity movement and hasten the demise of communism. It's an investigative report by Carl Bernstein. Carl Bernstein it's a well-known, respected U.S. journalist who was involved in the Watergate. He was disclosing Watergate, affair and what was happening there. So he published this. Some of you who are a little bit older may know that in the English-speaking countries, especially in the United States, Time magazine and Newsweek magazines were leading, magazines. Where we didn't have that time was no internet or whatsoever. So major articles were published. This was a major event. They recognized that something important has happened. United States and Vatican have come into alliance to overthrow communism in Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. So as I mentioned, February 24, this article appeared. And then what we have the first meeting between President Reagan and Pope John Paul II was held on June 7, 1982 in Rome. In Rome, they met for the first time. It's very interesting when you read about how Reagan came to the idea to talk to Pope John Paul II. At the time, he was a first Pope elected from Poland, and he was visiting Poland first time, Pope John Paul II, and Reagan was watching the public meetings in Poland. It was still communist Poland when Pope appeared in a public, millions of people gathered. This was something unprecedented. And Reagan was watching this event, and he almost came to the tears when he saw with how much affection, with how much love and adoration Polish people, welcome Pope. And he came to the idea, wow, this man has a powerful influence. We could potentially work together. No one has such much influence in Poland as he does. But then, in June 12, 1987, President Reagan had a speech at the Brandenburg Gate. And this one of the greatest secret alliances of all times, Bernstein said. As I mentioned, in June 12, 1987, President Reagan spoke at the Brandenburg Gate, very close. This is the Berlin Wall, just behind that. And do you know what he said? Publicly, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Yeah, you know that with these lines. His speechwriter said that this particular line should be taken from the speech, but he insisted, I make final choice. I will say these words, and he said it. And the wall came down, like Jericho wall, right? Tumbled down. So this was a major event I was a young man at that time, and I remember these days like today, what was happening. This was something you cannot understand, young generation today, what it meant for us, because we lived under communism 40 years after Second World War. And now, this was formidable. You could not imagine that this can come to the end. Like today, some people say, oh, well, certain things will not change. They will change. I don't think. If God says they will change. And then the Berlin Wall came down in October, November 1989. Here are the young people, just walking on both sides of Germany. Germany was divided, East and Western Germany. Now it's open. You can walk across and they tear down the wall. I remember in Romania, when Ceausescu his regime was, overthrown, and he and his wife executed. It was just before Christmas season. Everyone was glued to the TVs and watching what's going on. This is amazing thing. So you see, Pope worked with a labor union in Poland, Vatican, and Lech Walesa and Solidarność and so on, and ultimately, they were working from inside and overthrew the communism. And communism also was a worn-out system and somehow came to its end. Now we have President Reagan, and then his vice president became president, George H.W. Bush, the senior, and he was the one who first used the word the New World Order. The New World Order was created. This phrase was initially used by Woodrow Wilson after the World War I, when the League of Nations was the predecessor of the United Nations. It was created to preserve peace in the world after the First World War, but as you know, did not last very long. In September 11, 1990, now interestingly, September 11, 1990, 11 years before another September 11, right? President George H.W. Bush delivers a speech about the New World Order. And then also we had the Persian Gulf War that started on August 2, 1990. So America was now moving. Until then, you had two world superpowers. You had the communist bloc, and you have the so-called free world, Western world, United States, the leader. And then this great enemy, behind the Iron Curtain, came down. Now we are living in the so-called unipolar world with the United States as a leading world superpower. There is no peer competitor for the United States from 1991. Communism collapsed. This is a significant event in the prophetic. So in 1991, Soviet Union collapsed. Now United States, Western liberal democracy. Francis Fukuyama, a well-known political scientist, he wrote a famous book, and he says the world has come to the end. Now the whole world will be liberal democracies will spread throughout the world. This is the end of history. He wrote the book. Now the things have changed since then. But for us it's important to understand that United States, this is a significant moment when the United States becomes the sole world superpower. Great enemy is out of the way. So there is a nuclear disarmament of Soviet Union, strategic treaty, for arms reduction, right? Dissolution of Soviet Union, German reunification, United States as leading global superpower. This is 1990s. And then comes 2000. We are having September 11. And you know what happened? Terrorist attack, Twin Towers brought down. Very interesting development. United States comes out to the world stage and says, you are with us or against us, calling the whole world to take sides. America is still dominant global superpower. And we have a new world order. And then what happens, what we can see, that beast of Revelation 13, first beast, sea beast that has a deadly wound. In Revelation 13:3, we are told one of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. Last time I mentioned that this is papacy. In 1798, Napoleon inflicted a deadly wound, his general, because took the civil authority power from Rome. And then Rome was helpless, could not interfere or influence world affairs. But from 1929 onward, the wound is being healed, papal states restored to, and so on. And then, especially after the Second World War, and especially after Reagan, what is interesting, why is Reagan so highly celebrated in the United States? Both the Republicans and Democrats almost worship Reagan. No one touches him. He is significant because he established alliance, or moved it significantly forward. He established diplomatic relations with Vatican, with Roman Catholic Church. No one in the sound mind today in a political American scene would dare to challenge Roman Catholics in the United States today. No one dares that. And Reagan made a significant step in strengthening this alliance. So he is very significant. When John Paul II died, the 4 US presidents, sitting president and 3 former presidents came to his funeral. It is not for no reason. This man was very significant for the United States of America. So you see, United States of America and Vatican are key players in the prophetic chart, and we are now monitoring what's going on in the world affairs. Now we are coming to this sea beast of Revelation 13. As I mentioned, the first beast, Revelation 13, 1-3. I will be very brief because I assume you know something about this. I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. This beast rising out of the sea, coming from the populated part of the world, the sea represents peoples, nations, out of the sea, 7 heads and 10 horns. 7 heads means 7 former great world empires embodying. First is Babylon, second is Medo-Persia, head. Then we have Greece. Greece has 4 heads. This is 6. And then Rome, right, 7. So this is the beast, 7 heads, 10 horns, and crown horns, which means from the Roman Empire, pagan Roman Empire, we are having now barbarian tribes, new kingdoms in Europe, who became Christian nations, and there are monarchies. This is why they have crowns. These 10 horns have crowns, which means monarchies in Europe. So this is the depiction artistic of this particular sea beast. And then we are told the beast which I saw was like unto leopard, which is Greece. His feet were as the feet of bear. If you compare Daniel 7 and Revelation 13, it's the same power that is a little horn, you will see in a moment. Feet of a bear, Medo-Persia, mouth as the mouth of a lion, which is Babylon, speaking like Babylon, blasphemies, and false doctrine, apostasy. And the dragon, which is Satan, gave him his power and seat and great authority. So they are coming, dragon was Satan originally, but in secondary sense, pagan Rome. So this power, which is a papal Christian Rome, takes the seat of the pagan Rome and embodies elements of the previous great empires. Babylonian false worship, and also Greek philosophy, and Medo-Persian laws that are unchangeable, speaking ex cathedra, it's infallibility. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. We mentioned that, 1798. Deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Now that is where we want to look now. As the wound is being healed, all the world is now marveling. Wow, the beast is coming back to life. And this beast is a parody of Jesus Christ. It's called Antichrist power. Why? Because it imitates Christ, claims the prerogatives of Christ. And even as Christ died and came back to life, resurrected, this beast also receives deadly wound and comes back to life. See, a parody of Christ. And then Revelation 13:5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given to him to continue 42 months, 42 times 30, 1260. 1260 years, 538, 1798, this power will have supremacy and speak blasphemies. Blasphemies means religious statements or utterances that are against the word of God. And let me go on. So we have this rule of 1260 years, deadly wound inflicted 1798. So this is the period 538 to 1798. And this was a world order that existed then. Church controlling the state. Remember, that's important. Church controlling the state. Popes were crowning the kings. They are putting kings and nations under interdict. And they are deposing the kings, removing them from the... Everyone was afraid in Europe of the popes. But in Revelation 13:11, we have another power, which is United States, comes out of earth as a new power on earth. Interestingly, 1798, when Napoleon took Pope Pius VI captive, at the same time, on other continents, which was not so densely populated, arises a new young power looking like a lamb, with two horns like a lamb. United States Constitution was passed 1787, 88. And internationally, the United States was recognized in Europe in 1790s. Exactly the same time when this first beast receives deadly wound, another power rises in the United States. Recently, I don't have no time to go into that, but United States of America. Now, there is a lot of talk about is it a Christian nation and so on. Definitely Christians, Puritans, Pilgrims were involved in the establishment of the United States. But, believe or not, Roman Catholics were keeping their eyes on the United States. They have uncanny ability to recognize which world power will rise and to which power to align themselves. And they have early recognized the United States will be a power to, put their chips. And if you read Great Controversy, Sister White writes, Protestants in the United States are sleeping. They do not see how this power is rising through educational system, government offices, judicial offices. I spoke about this last time. So we mentioned lion, the first beast in Daniel 7, and then we connected with Revelation 13. So remember, little horn in Daniel 7, and the first beast, sea beast of Revelation 13 is the same power. Mouth speaking great things and blasphemies for 42 months, 1260 years. And this little horn has eyes like a man. Mouth speaking great things. Mouth speaking great things means a power which represents a government, legislation, making laws. That's a speaking, that power speaks. And then we are told 4 times speaking great things in Daniel 7, 8, 11, 20, 25. In 7:25 we are told speaks great words and thinks to change God's law. So brethren, remember this power, why it's important. Thinking to change God's law. It cannot change, no one can change the 10 Commandments, but they are thinking to change the law of God. And we know the 4th commandment, the Sabbath, 7-day Sabbath was changed to first day of the week. And it is a mark of Rome's authority, ecclesiastical religious authority. Undisputable. And I will not read again these words. This one little horn came up. Little horn has a mouth speaking great things, will think to change times and laws. At the same time, you're having another power when they receive the deadly wound coming out. And now I'd like to share with you a few words about the second beast. Because the second beast, lamb-like beast, will speak like a dragon and will make or cause the whole world to worship the first beast and make an image of the beast. Now, United States will do the same things as papacy. Change the laws or try to change the law of God and force people, make people, cause people to worship the first beast, to receive the mark of the beast, and we will see that in a moment. So we are told here, spake as a dragon, 2 horns like a lamb, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them that would dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So brethren, please be clear about that. When Islam was coming out, when it was September 11, and many people, even some Seventh Adventist Bible scholars, were trying to say, oh, well, maybe Islam is Antichrist power too. No. It's a false religion, but it's not Antichrist power. Don't forget. If you have in the great controversy so much written about papacy, how can you go wrong? It's clearly identified what is the power, Antichrist power. Protestants today are completely oblivious, blinded. They don't know who is Antichrist. And that's a tragedy of Protestant world today. The Bible is very clear. So the second beast, earth beast, United States, apostate Protestantism will align itself and has done so with first beast, papacy. It has 2 horns like a lamb. We understand this as a civil and religious liberty, because in the great controversy we are told that the United States has these 2 pillars, Republican and Protestant country. A Republican country means that majority cannot overpower minority in area of religious and civil liberties. So there are constitutional guarantees. When they sign Constitution, they actually said, okay, we need to also add to the Constitution this Bill of Rights or amendments that would protect civil and religious liberties. And these are the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Republicanism and Protestantism. Protestantism means there is no pope. This lamb-like beast has no crowns. You notice that? Beast like a lamb, 2 horns, but no crowns. First beast has 10 horns and crowns on them. United States is not monarchy. It's a republican form of government. Constitutional protection, separation of church and state. And Statue of Liberty. Well, that's a separate story. I heard recently that French government sent to the United States this Statue of Liberty, French revolutionary government. And there is a story behind that. I don't want to go into that, but it's not everything about, we think, very favorable. There are some other things that we could say about this Statue of Liberty. As I mentioned, Bill of Rights, this is the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is today already abridged. You know that. Canadian government also is moving in that direction to control, to censure public speaking, what is being communicated. They want to simply take away. There is Brother Rob sent me an interesting, also it came to my attention earlier that these bills that come from the Canadian Parliament that simply want to remove defense, for example, for allegation that you committed a crime of hate speech. There is a defense actually that you can use, that you were having a conscientiously held religious beliefs when you speak on a particular topic. But now they want to take it on the grounds that there is anti-Semitism and so on. So if somebody speaks something that, whatever. So the issue is this. They simply want to remove, and many churches protested against this. They want to remove this defense that can be available to us. If I speak and preach from this place and this go into media, and if somebody perceives my speech as a hate speech, on the religious ground, or I'm speaking against some other church or whatsoever, they can charge me. This is what they want to do. You cannot freely speak. And the First Amendment is the freedom of speech. You interpret the Bible and you simply say, this is my sincerely held religious belief. How I understand the Bible. I'm not against anyone. This is what the Bible, the Word of God says. And so we are told that the United States will speak as a dragon. Dragon gave authority to the first beast. First beast tried to change God's law. So America will also try to change the first beast, to change God's law and legislate Sunday law. As I mentioned, this alliance came into existence in 1980s, and it's growing. And the world is wandering after the beast. Deadly wound is being healed, Sunday law is around the corner, and the world wander after the beast. So brethren, these two powers, interestingly, the St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome and the U.S. Capitol have even architectural some similarities. And he calls it all. Verses Revelation 13, 15, and 16, and he had the power to give life unto the image of the beast. The image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. What is the image of the beast? The image of the beast is that relationship between church and state, when church can influence the state to make the laws legislating the religion. This is image of the beast, particularly when the Sunday will be legislated as a day of rest. Then the United States, Sister White says, will make an image to the beast. A replica. What papacy did in the Dark Ages, now United States will do in our time. And he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now this tells me something. United States of America will somehow, I will talk about this in a moment, retain dominance, supremacy in the world affairs until the very end, until Sunday law will come. And I will share with you more thoughts about this in a moment. And in Revelation 13:4, we are told they worship the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him. So ultimately the beast power, papacy, will be worshipped by the actions of the United States apostate Protestantism. And now let me share with you a few thoughts. Some people were speaking with me, even some of my relatives in Europe, and saying, are you sure that this will happen? Because we had this new world order, the United States became the only world superpower in 1990s. But from 2000, especially from 2010, there are some other powers rising on the world scene that are challenging United States supremacy. There are peer competitors. You know them, huh? China. No one can question that China is a great power today, global power. And Russia is a regional power, but certainly militarily a competitor to the United States. We've seen Ukraine, what's going on, right? So, what is going on? Will the United States be prevented from exercising its supremacy and dominion? Well, let's see. I would say that they are slowed down, but they're not out of the game. Not because of God's mercy, God is giving us a little bit more time. But we can see that, for example, China and Russia are creating new alliance. They are creating the so-called BRICS countries. So what happened when the war in Ukraine started and the West imposed sanctions on Russia, they actually froze their foreign assets, $360 billion. Now, Russia and China and other countries who are holding their reserves, foreign currency in dollar, US dollar, are now realizing if we keep our reserve funds in US dollar, they can take it. So we want to move it away from the US dollar. And they are trying to create an alternative currency, a reserve currency. They're using now gold, trying to use gold as a foundation. And so there is kind of United States and China relations are tense. We have seen it. Now this is from New York Times, farewell to US-China golden age. Things are a little bit changing. But China is a mighty power. Look, this is Beijing. It's amazing. In 20 years, what Chinese have done, this is unbelievable. I mean, people who have visited China said it's like a different planet, what you saw 30 years ago. I mean, high-speed trains, new cities. So this is just unbelievable. But now, what is happening in the West and the United States? Why is this significant, this fact, rise of China? If you look at the history moves, and the Bible confirms that, as a rise and fall of great nations and empires. Is it true? So we have United States ascendancy, like this lamb becoming a beast, right? And coming to the peak, apex. And as every other power, United States will go down. Would you agree with that? Some people are saying that they have reached the zenith and they are already in decline, descendancy. And this for sure may be true, but according to prophecy, they have to fulfill a certain role, important role in the world affairs. So this tells us that we are not far away from the end. If the United States will play a major decisive role in the world affairs in relation to Sunday law, this is not too far. Because we can see decline, and for example, look the wealth by the wealth percentile group from 1990. This is the left side to the right, 2020. Top 0.1%. How much wealth? So the wealth gap is growing. Not only that, U.S. dollar is losing the worth. Brethren, you can find the charts online, and you see what you could have bought with $1 in 1913 on the left side, and on the 2020 on the right side. Canadian dollar is not in much better shape. This is amazing how much US dollar has lost value. US dollar in milligrams of gold from 1780, the line at the very top, to the 2020, it's almost to the bottom. Dramatically losing value. And this is from 1900 to 2020, you see. Compared to gold, how much US dollar is losing value. What does it tell you? At some point in the future, there will be replacement for US dollar, and there will be digital currency. This is coming. This is coming, for sure, 100%. 100%. So actually, they are bringing the current currency in disrepute and making it less and less valuable until they will replace it with digital currency. Now, how about great tech companies and their role in this whole thing? Now, that's interesting. You know why? Because in the book of Revelation, we are told the kings of the earth are in alliance with papacy, with that, abominable woman, and the merchants. These merchants, all these high-tech companies, from Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, whatsoever it is, that are all in alliance with the state and with Vatican. They're all paid, visit to the Pope, the captains of the industry. I listened to a respected New York Times journalist, David Sander. He's won a Pulitzer Prize. He was saying just in this recent war in Ukraine, what these companies were doing. Because when the war started, Ukrainians had all the data in certain centers, physically stored. And if a missile would hit that, you lose all the data. So in few days, Google and Microsoft put all the data into the cloud. So government, is in alliance with these high-tech companies. Also, Elon Musk, with his satellites, was coming to the rescue of Ukraine. And then they asked, Starlink connection over Crimea. They wanted Ukrainians to hit Crimea. And he said, no, this will trigger the nuclear war. This is unbelievable what's going on. At a fundraiser in 2022, October 2022, the Democratic Party in the United States, President Biden walked in the room. He just received the intelligence that they intercepted some Russian high-ranking military officials who were communicating they are moving tactical nuclear weapons to the battlefield. So if the Russians would lose the war, they would use, there is a possibility that might use nuclear weapons to protect, their country from NATO. Brethren, this is extremely dangerous days in which we live. And by the way, Microsoft invests $1.5 billion of AI firm G42, which faces US scrutiny for China ties. So what happens? Chinese are coming with AI investment in United Arab Emirates. And then United States, to prevent Chinese to go there and take control of the AI developments, orders Microsoft to invest $1.5 billion in. This is an alliance unprecedented, government and corporate world, both in this competition between great superpowers. You know about TikTok. They want to ban it in the United States. So there is a big game going on. So Bible talks about these kings and merchants. Revelation 18:3, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. These are the merchants, these large corporations in alliance with the kings of the earth, in alliance with the apostate church. And then, let me bring you a little bit closer. I don't have time. I'd like to dedicate time to Revelation 17, because we are having here a beast, a woman riding on a beast. And then you have 10 kings. So the question is, how United States will manage to push the Sunday law to the whole world. Not only national Sunday law, but to the whole world. My understanding is that US economy and Chinese economy are very close, connected. And they're watching each other because both economies would suffer in societies immensely if they would really break up. So they will be playing some game. And I believe personally the United States will have some other powers available to them that we cannot fully understand today. It can be new technologies, like artificial intelligence or something like that will give them some edge. And for sure, supernatural phenomena like spiritualism. Because we are told that specifically that the second beast, United States, apostate Protestants, will be aligned with spiritualism. And here I'd like to just give you briefly text. These 10 kings, we know Pope is now in the States. So these 10 horns, which thou sawest, are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So what we will be seeing somehow United States will manage to bring together some alliance between the world leaders. And again, I don't see clearly how that will happen, but this will happen. Now let me share with you in the closing one piece of evidence that is not directly related to what we are talking today, specifically about great power politics and prophecy, but about health issues and prophecies. And this is really relevant for you to know, that we know where we are in the stream of time. You have probably heard about that. This is United Nations UN News. Pandemic experts express concern over avian influenza spread to humans. Heard about that? Okay. Now this is Scientific American. Bird flu is spreading in cows. Here's what that means for milk. H5N1 influenza virus particles have been detected in commercially sold milk. But it's not clear how the virus is spreading in cattle or whether the milk could infect humans. Heard about that? Buying milk in the stores? Watch out. Watch out. Now, let me read on. The outbreak of avian influenza in U.S. dairy cattle shows no signs of slowing. Over the past 3 weeks, the number of states where cows infected with bird flu have been detected has risen from 6 to 8 states. A preprint posted scientific paper on 16th of April reported the discovery of the virus in raw milk from infected cows, and U.S. federal authorities said on Wednesday that the virus had been found in lung tissue collected from seemingly healthy cow. Also on Wednesday, U.S. officials confirmed at a media briefing that genomic material from the H5N1 strain, which is causing the outbreak, had been detected in milk sold in shops. Detection of viral particles in milk sold to consumers suggests that avian flu in cows could be more widespread than initially thought, says food scientist Diego Diel at Cornell University at Ithaca, New York. After it leaves the farm and before it hits the shelves, milk is pasteurized to inactivate pathogens. To detect H5N1, the FDA used a test called quantitative polymerase chain reaction, which picks up viral RNA. So what is saying here that this flu virus, avian flu virus, is found in the milk sold in the stores. And let me just finish, because it detects fragments of the viral genome, the test cannot distinguish between living virus and the remnants of a dead virus, says dairy scientist Nicole Martin, Cornell University. The presence of viral material in commercially available milk does have broader implications. However, U.S. federal rules require milk from infected cows to be discarded, but it's not yet clear whether cows often start shedding the virus before they look sick or produce abnormal milk. Scientific American, April 26, yesterday, 2024. So, why I'm reading this? Do we have something in the spirit of prophecy about this? Oh, we do. We do. The spread of bird flu virus from infected person to a close contact is very rare, and when it has happened, it has only spread to a few people. However, because of the possibility that the bird flu viruses could change and gain the ability to spread easily between people, monitoring for human infection and person-to-person spread is extremely important for public health. This is CDC website, bird flu infections in humans. Now what happened? This avian flu was among the birds, and now it moves to mammals, to cows. And now they are watching people who were with the cows working were also infected, few individuals. Now they're watching really spread from human to human. This is extremely contagious. Look what is the mortality rate for avian flu. As of November 2022, 240 cases of human avian influenza virus have been confirmed from the Western Pacific region since 2003 with a case fatality rate of 56%. More than every second person infected dies. Worldwide, from 2003 to October 22, 865 cases were reported from 21 countries with a case fatality rate of 53%. I don't want to scare you. Still, the risk is low, thank God. But they're monitoring. Will it start to spread from, to humans and from human to human? So, how about food of animal origin? I'm reading to you Testimony for the Church, Volume 7. Let the diet reform be progressive. Let the people be taught how to prepare food without the use of milk or butter. Tell them that the time will soon come when there will be no safety in using eggs, milk, cream, or butter because disease in animals is increasing in proportion to the increase of wickedness among men. The time is near when, because of the iniquity of the fallen race, the whole animal creation will groan under the diseases that curse our earth. Brethren, this is happening right now. There is no safety, one more statement, in eating of the flesh of dead animals, and in a short time the milk and the cows will also be excluded from the diet of God's commandment-keeping people. In a short time it will not be safe to use anything that comes from the animal creation. Pacific Union Recorder, November 7, 1901. When you see these signs, what do you think? Where are we? Where are we? Look, brethren, at our home, we are basically vegan. But I'm thinking now, going fully vegan. I don't want to take a risk. Now, Laudato Si, care for our common home, right? Yeah. So, somebody also is aware of that, and look what will happen, and I will close with this. Through the two great errors, the mortality of the soul and Sunday's sacredness, Satan will bring the people under his deceptions. While the former lays the foundation of spiritualism, the latter creates bond of sympathy with Rome. The Protestants of the United States will be foremost in stretching their hands across the gulf to grasp the hand of spiritualism. And they will reach over the abyss to clasp the hands with Roman power. And under the influence of this threefold union, this country will follow in the steps of Rome in trampling on the rights of conscience. By the creed enforcing the institution of the papacy in violation of the law of God, our nation will disconnect herself fully from righteousness. Fifth Testimony 4:51. And we know that's here. It's here. America is ready to move and disconnecting itself from righteousness. Protestants have abandoned Protestants. They don't protest. They're going back to home. To their home, I mean, where they came from in 16th century. But people of God, true people of God, will not go there. They will stand firm in defense of the law of God. You know this very statement, Protestantism stretching the hands across gulf, hand Roman power and spiritualism. And I don't want to go further. I have more to share with you. And just one thing. Why I'm speaking this, sharing with you these things, because brethren, as I'm watching the signs of the times, as I'm reading this inspired word, I'm aware where we are, and we as a people have to wake up. We have to know what is the hour. We have to do our appointed work at homes, in the churches, reaching out to the community. We have to warn the world. Who knows what will happen in the rest of this year and next year? I share with you what I know. May God help us to study the Word. Today we had in Sabbath school lessons, study the Word as never before. Study the prophecies. Put it together. The events and the prophecies, and pray to God for enlightenment. And watch and pray. Because last days, last events will be how? Rapid ones. May God help us to be under His wings as we sang in this beautiful hymn at the opening of this service. This is my wish and prayer for all of us. Amen.